Hello everyone and welcome to Canada for the 2022 Canadian Grand Prix here in the Alternative Apex Series. It's a much sunnier sky than we saw last season when the cars had to start on the intermediate compound of tyres. This season looks like we'll be very much staying on the drier compounds of tyres as the sun is out and the clouds are away from the circuit. Here is the 14-turn Montreal circuit here in Canada, circuit Gilles Villeneuve, of course named after the late Canadian Formula 1 driver, the great Gilles Villeneuve. After Spain, and that was a race where we saw Lando Norris take victory, just ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi and Lewis Hamilton. Well, I say just ahead, he destroyed the field, quite frankly. Really dominating performance shown by the young Briton. He'll be looking to try and back that one up here in Canada, try and become a true title contender. He does lead the championship by 2 points at the moment. But as we've seen so far this season, when Antonio Giovinazzi in third in the championship, only 10 points off the lead. I don't think we can read into the standings too much at this stage in the season. But nonetheless, we are here in Canada for round 3, and here is your starting grid. Lando Norris does back up his strong performance in Spain with a pole position here in Canada, lining up alongside Valtteri Bottas, who gets a good qualifying result there in second. It's Pierre Gasly in third ahead of Max Verstappen, Vettel and then Hamilton starting 6th. Charles Leclerc in 7th ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. Sergio Perez with a relatively poor qualifying session in 9th alongside Fernando Alonso. Then it is O'Ward, Ocon, Giovinazzi and Mick Schumacher. On the next row it is Yuki Tsunoda and Robert Schwartzman with Lance Stroll, Guan Yu Zhou, and behind them it is George Russell, Nikita Mazepin, and on the last row of the grid it is Nicholas Latifi and Carlos Sainz, who had to take a grid penalty. So that's your lineup for today's Grand Prix. Let's head down to the track. Cars are on the grid, the lights are coming on, and we are racing in Canada. Can Norris get a good start? It doesn't look that great. Initially off the launch, he has been jumped there by Bottas on the outside. They're free wide going to turn 1. Gasly sends it up the inside of turn 1. Bottas forced onto the grass. Bottas dropping down the order. He's had to stop the car. He's gone off the circuit there down at turn 1. The field charging through. Bottas just trying to find a way back onto the circuit here. He's going to drop all the way down to last position. All the way down to the back of the field. Valtteri Bottas at the back. Lando Norris still pulling away out front though. That's giving him a chance to break away from the field. We've got Max Verstappen and Pierre Gasly battling away here. The two Red Bull-owned cars wheel to wheel through the middle sector of this lap. Gasly trying to take the fight from reigning champion Max Verstappen this season. Puts it down to Tarry ahead for now. Can Max Verstappen fight back though heading into this little chicane? It's Lewis Hamilton who's had a good start up 2 positions so far. Could he make it 3 as he goes wheel to wheel with Max Verstappen as they head towards the hairpin now? It'll be who dares to break length into the hairpin. Max Verstappen inferior on the inside line should have the advantage going in, but Lewis Hamilton on the outside maybe can find a bit more traction on the more rubbered in line. Let's see as they make their way out of the hairpin now, down the long back straight. Lando Norris well clear of the field at the moment, 1.6 seconds already. Pierre Gasly in second, also starting to break away from the field. Max Verstappen trying to hold on to this third position, but it's Lewis Hamilton. Can he go around the outside of the final chicane? With a bit of wheel spin on the exit, it looks like he's managed to do it there. But that is Lewis Hamilton up into third place. Can Max Verstappen fight back heading towards turn 1? Doesn't look like it. Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo are now battling behind those two. Lots of battles here in the early stages of this Grand Prix. It's not a track that's usually hard to overtake on. You'd think maybe these guys would show some patience and maybe go for these overtakes later in the Grand Prix, but clearly these guys want these moves done now as they go wheel to wheel through the chicane. Vettel has to back out there. That could potentially put him on the back foot to his teammate. But it is his teammate that's feeling the pressure now. As that is Pato O'Ward going up the inside of Charles Leclerc. Wheel to wheel now. Let's see who's going to come out on top of this battle. O'Ward did start on the mediums. I believe he started in 11th place and he's had a good start so far from to 7th. Can he fend off Charles Leclerc though? Will he want to fend off Charles Leclerc realistically? That Ferrari is probably the quicker of the two cars, especially given that it's on soft tyres. But Leclerc had a bit of a mistake. That's going to put Leclerc back into the clutches of Fernando Alonso, but it looks like Leclerc has stayed ahead for now. A few laps later, Charles Leclerc starting to pressure Pato O'Ward for this position. O'Ward goes a little bit wide there. Leclerc's going to try and get the better exits, make their way out of the hairpin. That Ferrari with the power of DRS, which should be enabled now, indeed it is, should be able to cruise past the Chevrolet down this long straight, and indeed he does. Gets ahead of O'Ward and will be back up into 7th position in this Grand Prix. O'Ward's going to try and fight back, but I don't think he'll be able to. Meanwhile, up front, Pierre Gasly starting to put the pressure onto Lando Norris. The AlphaTauri of Gasly looks to have a little bit better pace in the other stages of this Grand Prix. He's qualified 3rd, his best so far of the season. But it's a strong start so far for Pierre Gasly. Meanwhile, Guan Yu Zhou, shout out to him, currently 13th in this race in the Haas car. That's the highest he's been all season. When you take out sort of pit strategies and things like that, but it's a A strong showing so far by the Chinese driver. Into the pits though on lap 8 of the Grand Prix, Pierre Gasly is going to try the undercut on Lando Norris. Only issue he's had there is that he's had to he didn't go full speed into entry because Lando Norris is in front of him. So maybe that's where Lando Norris can find a bit of time back. But Pierre Gasly is going to come out of the pit lane now. Will he come out in clear air? That is the question. Looks like he's managed to do a decent job of coming out in clear air. He's got a car ahead of him, but it's not a decent gap to the car ahead. Lando Norris now comes into the pit lane, followed in by Charles Leclerc. Lando Norris putting on the medium compound tyres. Let's see, where can he come out? He's been undercut here. The question is, by how much? Well, they've tried the undercut. Let's see. Lando Norris exits the pits, and was there a mistake on that lap by Lando Norris? There must have been, because he's come out in a net P4. He's behind not only Pierre Gasly, but behind Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen as well. The undercut has worked wonders there for him. But now the battle of the lead is between Pierre Gasly and Lewis Hamilton. The winner in Bahrain, Lewis Hamilton trying to get his second win of the season. He's already having a much more successful season than he did last season, at least when it comes to the start of the season. And he's trying to get his second win of the season here as he puts the pressure on Pierre Gasly. Going to go to the inside. It looks like, yes, he is. Sends one to the inside into turn 1. Can the AlphaTauri do anything to fight against the Mercedes? He's going to try and keep his nose in. But that Mercedes, with that superior grip, looks like he's going to get the move done. And as Lewis Hamilton up into the net race lead here. Pierre Gasly dropping to second, but still strong drive so far for Pierre Gasly. A couple of laps later, he's running in. Oh, and that's his engine. His engine has blown up. Pierre Gasly's out of this Grand Prix, surely, and he's in the wall. Pierre Gasly's in the wall there. It looks like he may have been clipped by another car as they went past as well. Pierre Gasly's out of this Grand Prix in, well, spectacular fashion. Going from briefly having the net race lead, losing that one out to Lewis Hamilton, now out of this Grand Prix entirely. That's a shame. And that ends Pierre Gasly's good run so far in today's Grand Prix. Into the pit lane, Pato O'Ward for Chevrolet started on the mediums. He's a slightly later pit stop than everyone else. Meanwhile, we've got a battle between Yuki Tsunoda and Sergio Perez. That AlphaTauri car looking quite quick so far today. Tsunoda battling with Perez, and looks like he's going to pull away from Perez now. Let's wait and see. It looks like he has managed that as Bottas, after that turn 1 drama, after nearly taking the lead into turn 1, ended up at the back of the field. He's charging his way up the order. He's going to try and get past Mick Schumacher here, and Bottas is making his way up the order. But I think it's fair to say he's not making moves quick enough to get himself back into a legitimate race win fight. Up at the lead, Lewis Hamilton comes into the pits here on lap 21 of the Grand Prix. Looks like, again, he's one of the first cars to pit, so he's fending off from the undercut here. Lando Norris did stay out another lap, but we saw in the first stint that the longer you go on the tyres, you're only going to lose out time, so I doubt that will do much for him. But Lewis Hamilton comes out comfortably in clear air and with a good gap to the drive behind in the form of Max Verstappen. Lando Norris does now come to the pits a lap later with Charles Leclerc following suit once again. Let's see where Norris can come out now. Let's see. He's going to go through turn 1. He's going to come out behind his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. Norris in this Grand Prix so far not appearing to have the pace that he had in qualifying, and is struggling in this Grand Prix so far. Now down in 4th position. We've now got a battle there between Esteban Ocon and O'Ward as they go into the middle sector of the lap. They're wheel to wheel. Ocon on the mediums, O'Ward on the softs. That Chevrolet doesn't look to have good race pace, at least at this stage of the Grand Prix. Despite having the soft tyres, he's the one coming under attack at the moment as Ocon really piling the pressure on. And look at this battle. They duel their way into the chicane now. Ocon on the outside, O'Ward on the inside. O'Ward's going to do all he can to try and fight this one off. Ocon nearly gets the move done. Is they still side by side? No, he's had to back out of that one. Not a good enough exit for Esteban Ocon. Will he have a look into the hairpin? Doesn't look like he will. He's going to follow the Chevrolet Pato O'Ward through the hairpin. Mick Schumacher is now getting involved in this battle. He's just caught up to the rear of this group of cars. Esteban Ocon now in the slipstream and has DRS on Pato O'Ward. Let's see, he's all over the back of the Chevrolet. He's going to go to the inside. Indeed he is. Up the inside of the chicane, a bit of a squeeze there from O'Ward. That's going to put Ocon under a bit more pressure here. He's going to really have to slow down through that chicane. Neither of them are on an ideal line, having to give space to each other. Mick Schumacher getting involved here. Going to try and get past Esteban Ocon. Esteban Ocon going to try and get past O'Ward. They're all battling away for this final points-taking position. And we've seen in the past that one singular point can make all the difference. So these guys, rightfully so, they're battling very hard for this P10. Ocon does now get ahead of O'Ward. Schumacher right behind in this battle though, and does not look to be out of it. As they're now wheel to wheel going to the hairpin. Schumacher on the outside of O'Ward through the hairpin. Schumacher, these medium tyres seem to be working better at this stage of the Grand Prix. Going to get a slightly better exit there. Opens DRS, is going to power flying past the Chevrolet and gets his Alfa Romeo up into 11th in this Grand Prix. Esteban Ocon just ahead of him now. Can Schumacher try and get another car here? He's going to have DRS. Can he make the move work? He's going to have a look. Will he go for it though? Looking to the outside, but not enough space there. Ocon shuts the door. 2 laps later, he's going to go to the inside this time into turn 1. Can he make the move? We've seen lots of overtakes in this part of the lap. He's going to have the outside line through turn 2. Will it work? The outside line tends to produce more grip, and on this occasion it does appear to have done just that. And Mick Schumacher is up into 10th place. But out of the front, Lewis Hamilton will come round the final couple of corners, down towards the checkered flag, and Lewis Hamilton take his second Grand Prix victory of the season in just 3 races. Max Verstappen, the reigning champion, who finally finds himself some form and gets P2 today, ahead of Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. A good day for McLaren and Ferraris of Vettel and Leclerc behind them. But it's Lewis Hamilton on the top step of the podium once again. The Mercedes team very happy with the start to this season so far, especially when you see their main rivals last season struggling as much as they have been. This is a brilliant start to the season for Mercedes, and especially Lewis Hamilton, as he tries to aim for that 8th World Championship. The Mercedes car looking on form so far this season, and the question is, can anyone stop it? Norris has shown pace at times, but today the race pace was definitely firmly in the hands of Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. It'll be interesting to see if Lando Norris can bounce back from this tough result. Of course, earlier today we're talking about sort of continuing good momentum, but now we're talking about bouncing back. It's only a P4, which you'd think he would have been quite happy with last season, but Ricciardo even beat him today, despite starting much lower down the grid. So Norris maybe needs to try and refine that form he had in Spain if he'd like to try and take this title fight to Lewis Hamilton. But here is the final classifications for today's Grand Prix. It's Lewis Hamilton, of course, who takes his second win of the season ahead of Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo. Lando Norris gets 4th position with Sebastian Vettel in 5th, with Charles Leclerc behind him. Ferrari getting a decent result there. Yuki Tsunoda in 7th, beating Sergio Perez, who appears to have had a tough day there, being probably the slowest Red Bull-owned car. Of course, Gasly with his engine failure, but still, Perez not really on pace today, especially with his teammate. Then it is Valtteri Bottas with a good recovery drive, gets fastest lap and gets himself up into P9, gets 3 points there, and worryingly that's his first points of the season, but still nonetheless a decent job there done by Valtteri Bottas. Mick Schumacher takes the final points paying position, so another strong result and strong showing by the Alfa Romeo team, showing that they made the right decision in signing Mick Schumacher after the great season so far they have had with him. Now only missing out on points there is Esteban Ocon, who of course got overtaken at the start of the final lap, and Pato O'Ward, who despite having pace early on in the Grand Prix, just didn't seem able to keep that pace and dropped through the field. But here are the driver's standings after the Canadian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton retakes lead in the championship, 11 points ahead of Lando Norris now. Antonio Giovinazzi still holds on to that 3rd position, but now 33 points off the championship lead. I think it's fair to say he's probably not going to be a legitimate championship contender this season. Max Verstappen in 4th. I mean, Red Bull really need to pull something out of the bag here now. They're 38 points behind the championship lead. It's really not good enough for a reigning champions team. I knew there was a regulation change, but still, they're going to have to try and find some form in the second half of this season, because so far it has not gone so well for them. Lance Stroll is 5th in the championship for Aston Martin. Aston Martin with a couple of strong positions in the Drivers' Championship there. Daniel Ricciardo sitting 6th for McLaren. Not quite at the dizzying heights of Lando Norris at the moment in terms of points, but still he's showing some good pace this season. Esteban Ocon just behind him in the Alpine. Charles Leclerc in 8th, not the season he would have wanted, nor will the Ferrari team would have wanted for this season so far. 8th in the Drivers' Championship, only 12 points so far. It's not what they would have wanted, but I mean, it's a long season ahead of them. They're not in a similar situation to those like Max Verstappen, who have gone from championship winning to 38 points off the lead after 3 races. So it's not completely dreadful for Ferrari, because that midfield battle is so close at the moment. So when you compare them in points, it doesn't look as bad as the 8th position would suggest, but still not ideal for the Ferrari driver. Schumacher sits 9th in the championship on 11 points. Good start to the season for him and Alfa Romeo. And Sergio Perez 10th in the championship moment. Notable exception from that top 14 is Valtteri Bottas, with only 3 points on the board so far, sitting way down the Drivers' Championship order. He will be getting quite desperate to put some points on the board at the moment, more than the 3 he has anyway, whilst his teammate leads the way. He is, 63 points off the championship lead, so that's not good enough at the moment for Valtteri Bottas. Here are the Constructors' standings now. McLaren take the lead in the Constructors' Championship, with Mercedes just 5 points behind. Aston Martin dropped down to 3rd. Unsurprisingly, I think it's fair to say they'll probably be starting to fade throughout the season now, but still they've had an outstanding start to the season, so they've got a good chance of getting best of the rest of the season. I think the question is, where is best of the rest of the season with a field that seems to be quite close? It's hard to sort of pick out who would be, what position is best of the rest, but at the moment Aston Martin sitting 3rd in a strong position ahead of Red Bull and Ferrari. Chevrolet sitting 6th, I think their car's shown more pace, especially in qualifying, than the 6th place would warrant. Same goes, I'd argue, for Alpine and Alfa Romeo, another two teams that have shown some good pace this season, but just with how close that midfield is, probably not where they would have wanted to be. Speaking of not where you'd want to be, AlphaTauri, I mean, they were fighting for the lead in this Grand Prix, and yet they're still 9th in the constructor standings, which obviously isn't what they would have wanted, but they are, as I said, they fought for the lead in the Grand Prix today. They've got pace in the car, so it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they start to score some big points this season, I think. But that is it now for round 3 of the 2022 Formula 1 season here in the Alternative Apex Series. Next up is France. Now that brought up a few surprises last season, so I look forward to seeing if it can replicate that for this season. But yeah, that should be hopefully another exciting Grand Prix, so make sure you don't miss out tomorrow's race.